What's up, guys? I'm Nathan, and this is the version 2 Anime Adventures Tokyo Ghoul update tier list because I did miss a few characters and I just wanted to make an updated one where I did my explanations. Plus, this is gonna have a lot of fixes because I've had more time to research on the characters now. So, as you guys know, God tier is gonna be for the characters that are so good that they are literally on another level of even other meta characters. S tier is going to be, well, meta characters and, well, alternators for meta. A tier is going to be really good characters, even for pros. B tier is going to be the best characters for beginners. C tier is going to be average characters for beginners. And D tier is going to be characters that are bad, even for beginners. We're going to be starting off with all of the new update characters, as you can see. So we're starting off with Eto. So when you evolve him, or her, I'm not really sure about the gender of these Tokyo Ghoul characters, so if I make a mistake, forgive me guys, because I have not watched Tokyo Ghoul. But basically, this character has a solid DPS, higher than most characters, around 1400 at max, with 53 range, which is insanely good. The AoE is quite solid. It's gonna be a cone AoE, but the main highlight of this character is going to be that the damage increases every kill. It's not a huge increase, it's just gonna be like 4 damage. But if you kill, if you go to high waves, you can kill like thousands of enemies, like 2000 plus enemies easily. And that could increase this character's damage by like 8000, provided this character deals like the killing blow, which is honestly a really good thing. Then we have Tatara. When evolved into his Ignite form, he's gonna be in S tier because he's doing 2 times burn damage. That's gonna be his highlight. He also has a solid damage per second, but his range is on the lesser side, coming in at just 28. Then we have this character. So he's gonna be one of the new legendaries, and he is currently the best damage per second legendary for infinite mode because he is one of the pricier legendaries that are currently obtainable. But he's gonna be doing the highest DPS of all of the legendaries as of now. So he's gonna be right there. He's got a pretty decent AoE and okay range. I mean, the okay for legendaries is around 20 to 25. For mythics, it's around 50 is considered really good. Then we have JOUZOU, who's going to be once again top S tier because he's going to be doing really high DPS, around 1700. His range is a bit on the lower side at just around 31.5. His AoE is decent, it's going to be a semi AoE cone, but the main highlight is going to be that he can bleed. And bleeding, in fact, first of all, it does damage, and it also reduces the amount of HP regained by those HP regen mobs, which is really helpful because the new map has a lot of them. So that's a really good character. Then we have Norro, who's going to be like the replacement for Giorno, because he's going to be doing more DPS by a bit compared to Giorno, with a better AoE, and he costs about the same amount of cash. Then we have RENZI, the new secret unit. He's gonna be in A tier because he is around the similar difficulty to get as Ace, the other secret, and he is overall not terrible because, well, he is dealing decent damage with quite a huge AoE. Just for a secret unit, he is not that great. Kaneki is also going to be in B tier because while his DPS is nothing special, he does bleed, and that does make him unique compared to other legendaries. Then we have Arima. Arima is just a really good character, gonna be above Eto because Arima is just raw damage per second. Arima has decent AoE, another AoE cone, 43.7 range, which is like medium to good, but his DPS at max is like almost 2000, which is just insane compared to most of the other characters. And I think currently Arima has the highest DPS in the game, correct me if I'm wrong. Only reason I'm putting him below JOSU is because JOSU is gonna help you by doing that bleed. But overall, Arima is just a really good pick. Then we have Lelouch, gonna be in God tier because he summons mobs with like 5k plus HP. Those mobs shoot for like 4k plus damage. And then he also summons a mech with like 15k HP that also attacks with an AoE circle, and he has an ability Mind Control that basically makes the enemies move back and literally attack each other. overall a crazy package. Obviously gonna be god tier. He is also very difficult to get, and he has an evolution, and I'm talking about the evolved form obviously. Then we have Ace, who's gonna be an A tier. He's a decent character, doing over like 1000 damage, but not as good as Renzi. Luffy, not that great for obvious reasons. Gohan is, I mean, he's not a terrible character per se. It's just that he is a leaderboard character, and if you've been on the leaderboards to get a leaderboard character, you probably have way better characters than Gohan. But I mean, we're putting him in A tier anyway. We have Eren, who's going to be C tier. He does decent DPS, and he even summons an attack titan with good HP that even attacks them before he actually runs into them. But the problem with summoners, while they do essentially have infinite range, if you're getting pushed by a lot of enemies, then a summoner is not a way to go. You want a character with good AoE. Then we have Genos, who is okay. He's still going to be D tier because he's not that great, but like, he does have a pretty fast cooldown. Sanji is going to be right here as well because he costs only 250 to place down. However, he has really bad range on placement, but he does burn from the get-go. Then we have Piccolo, who has decent range but nothing special overall. Then we have Levi, who's going to be top A tier. He does a solid DPS above like 1000, and additionally he has a 25% chance to crit the enemies, which doubles his damage. The only problem with this character is going to be the fact that he's essentially single target because his AoE circle is just way too small. Then we have Speedway, again money unit, gonna be better than Burma for story mode, so he's gonna be right there. Then we have Akainu, who's going to be above Tatara. Now here's the thing, with Akainu and Tatara, Akainu has lesser DPS by a bit, however he has nearly double the range at around 50. The rest of it is more or less the same, however Tatara will give you a 2 times burn, which is gonna be more damage than Akainu, but I'm still gonna put Akainu above just because the range difference is just a bit too much. Honestly, yeah, this is gonna be the placement, though they are kind of interchangeable because both are really good burners. Then we have Crocodile, who's gonna be like pretty much the best epic character for beginner to get, other than Speedwagon obviously. Then we have Giorno, who's gonna be above Kaneki because yeah, he is a lot cheaper and stuff. And he's also really good for story mode if you do not have Norro. But if you don't have either of them, I suggest that you wait for Norro because he's just the replacement for Giorno. Then we have Karakuri, who's going to be right about there in S tier. He is able to slow down characters with a pretty huge AoE. Then we have Zenitsu, who is pretty garbage. Gaara is going to be right there in C tier because he's able to stun the enemies. Trafalgar Law is also going to be C tier because he does really good DPS for an epic. We have Owen, who is going to be a pretty solid S tier because, well, he buffs all your units by 25%. Whitebeard is going to be around here because he is below Karakuri because while he does push the enemies back, it's only on an ability, and additionally you can only place 3 of him down. That's one thing that you guys have to note. Then we have Blackbeard, who's going to curse the enemies and make them take more damage from your units, which is obviously really helpful in increasing your overall DPS. Armin is going to be like top C tier or bottom B tier. Honestly, yeah, I'll put him bottom B tier because while he is a mythic, he is the worst mythic currently in the game. He will be doing like over 100 DPS, like he's doing like 10k damage with a huge AoE. It's just that his cooldown is just so long that, and for a mythic, it's just way too trash. Then we have this dude, Naruto, who's going to be right about here in A tier. A decent mythic, but not really worth grinding for. You can obtain him from raid. Next up, guys, we have Diavalo, who is actually a support character. He is able to time stop the entire map. However, this does not last for really long, and additionally, there's a fairly long global cooldown, which is why he's not that useful. I'm gonna go and put him there in A tier. Zeke is gonna be up here in C tier because Zeke has huge range coming in at around 50. However, he also has a very long SPA, which is like 8. Then we have Rengoku, who's going to go ahead and be right about here in 80 as well. He's able to burn enemies, but with the rectangle AoE, but it's just that his DPS is nothing special. Then we have Kizaru, who's going to be right here in C tier. He's a hail unit that has a decent circle AoE and decent DPS, but not really good compared to the characters in B tier that are the best for beginners. Then we have Darby, who's going to be low C tier because he's one of the worst legendaries currently. There's just nothing good about him. He does burn, but it's with very little DPS, and the burn itself does not really impact him much. The AoE isn't great because rectangle AoE is not that versatile. Then we have Goku Black. He's got pretty huge range and AoE. It's just that his DPS is kind of garbage. Mihawk, I'm revising him to C tier because his DPS is okay, but his rectangle AoE, like I said, it's a little bit harder to control and it's very narrow. So yeah, that's why I'm gonna put him lower than I did last time. Dio is gonna be a solid S tier. He is able to time stop the enemies automatically with a huge circle AoE. Additionally, he's not too expensive and really very good for beginners even in story mode. Then we have Itachi, who's going to be around here in C tier. He doesn't really have much range, and he does deal burn damage with like fairly good DPS. It's just that his range and AoE is really bad. Then we have Pain, who's going to be up here in A tier because Pain in fact is able to knock back enemies and is kind of a budget version of All Might. Speaking of All Might, he also will automatically be able to push back enemies, which is obviously really helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and put him up here in S tier. Then we have Sakura, who is able to buff by 10%, so I'm gonna go ahead and put her right there in B tier because it's just a budget version of Erwin and it's pretty good for beginners to use, I suppose. Then we have Naruto. Naruto is legendary is gonna be like right here in C tier. He does have big circle AoE, but like it's not that great. Then we have Goku, who's gonna be in B tier because he also has a really high DPS for a legendary, but he does cost a lot more than Giorno, so he's not as usable in story mode. And he also does have the rectangle AoE, which is why he's a bit harder to control. Eren Founder is gonna be in God tier because he can do the rumbling, which will do like 4 to 5 million damage, which is insane. And he has a 482nd SPA, but like here's the thing, if you get light speed, that's gonna reduce by quite a bit, and he's like a nuke. You can basically one shot or at least lower the boss's HP by an insane amount. So if you need it, you can really do that. And if you've got all the supports like All Might, Katakuri, Dio and stuff, just pushing back the enemies, slowing them down, doing all that you can, then you actually will have enough time to get his cooldown back by the time the next boss comes up, and it's just really helpful. Only thing is your time stopping, which you'll be doing with Shanks. Speaking of Shanks, let's go ahead and put him in top S tier because he's doing really solid DPS with full AoE, but the main thing is going to be his time stop. And you can basically time stop the enemies, but you'll need to group the enemies behind such that the boss is in front so that the boss will take the brunt of the rumbling. Then we have Josuke, who's going to be right there in D tier. He's here in this list because he's able to stun, but it's a single target stun. Frieza is D tier because he's got decent AoE and also good range. It's just that the ones in C tier are better. Then we have Todoroki, who's gonna be in B tier because he's a budget version of evolved Katakuri, where he also slows enemies down as well as burns them, which is pretty nice. Then we have Broly, who I am actually moving down now because Broly is actually, you know, yes, screw it, bro. I'll keep him in S tier, but I'll keep a poll for you guys to vote whether or not I should move him down. Here's the thing, Broly has like 1/4 the DPS of a character like Arima, but he also has huge range and full AoE. That's the thing. So you can just like literally hit every single unit on the map, which is why I keep putting him top S. But I'll probably make a poll for you guys to vote on whether or not I should move him down. Then we have Killua, who's in D tier. Madara is going to have to move to top A tier because Madara is no longer that useful. His DPS is not great. His AoE is good, but it's just gonna be on his DPS and range even. Then we have Bulma, best farm unit obviously. Kakyoin has decent AoE but horrible damage per second. Luffy is gonna be in D tier because he is a decent one for starters, but overall not a great character. Then we have Overhaul, who initially starts with a fast SPA and then gets a good circle AoE, but his SPA will in fact become slower. Then you have Kakashi, who is really bad because he doesn't do much damage and costs way too much considering that. Then we have Jotaro, who's going to be up here in A tier because he is basically a budget version for Shanks, because again you can manually time stop, meaning you can group characters according to your necessity. But that's pretty much it for this video, so thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if there's anything you disagree with, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.